They gave my sister the house. Then, with the whole family watching, the lawyer handed me keys to the empire. The one thing they never wanted me to own. Hi, I'm Keziah. I grew up being everyone's problem solver and nobody's favorite. I watched my own family crop me out of photos, out of memories, and out of their future, until the day I took back everything they tried to erase. Have you ever had someone betray you so completely it forced you to choose between peace and justice? Or felt like the only way to survive was to build your own legacy from the ashes of what they destroyed? Drop a comment below. Would you fight for what's yours or walk away for good? Let me take you back to the moment my entire life flipped, when a single sentence in a Will Turn the Family I thought I knew upside down. I should have known from the way Thessaly strutted into the lawyer's office, like she was walking a runway, not about to hear our grandmother's final wishes. Mom, Delora, trailed behind her, busy smoothing down a strand of her hair and adjusting Thessaly's blazer so it caught the light just right. Dad, Orville, was silent as usual, eyes focused anywhere but on me. I slipped into the room alone, clutching my chipped pen, my grandmother's, the one she used for every signature that ever mattered. No one noticed. They never did. We sat around the long oak table, the air heavy with the scent of expensive polish and anticipation. Leather chairs creaked as we settled, and for a moment the only sound was the faint whir of the ceiling fan overhead. The lawyer, Martin Keene, glanced at each of us with practiced neutrality, then slid a stack of folders to the center of the table. My name wasn't on the cover. Thessaly positioned herself perfectly for the sunlight streaming through the window, flashing her signature influencer smile. I sat at the far end, hands folded in my lap, trying to appear smaller than the polished wood between us. Delora's gaze flicked to me, cold and dismissive. Orville nodded at his shoes. Martin cleared his throat. Thank you for being here. This is the last will and testament of Marion Elvine. He paused, waiting for some sign of grief, but none came. He started with the obvious. The primary residence in Westbury, along with all furnishings, shall be passed to Thessaly Elvine. A hush fell. Delora exhaled in relief, eyes shining as Thessaly pressed a trembling hand to her chest in a performance worthy of any live stream. Me? Thessaly gasped. Are you sure? I stared at the table. Of course it was her. It was always her. Martin continued. All other physical possessions, except for sentimental keepsakes, are similarly bequeathed to Thessaly. A soft, polite round of applause broke out. I sipped water, swallowing the sour taste of invisibility. My phone vibrated in my bag, a muted reminder of some freelance platform ping. I ignored it. Then Martin flipped the page. As for all educational materials, curriculum, teaching programs, intellectual property, and proprietary frameworks, these are to be entrusted in their entirety to Keziah Elvine. For a beat, no one spoke. Delora's mouth tightened. Thessaly's smile froze, her eyes darting from Martin to me as if searching for a punchline. I blinked. What does that mean? I managed. Martin pulled out a heavy, cream-colored folder, sliding it down the table toward me. This includes digital assets, lesson plans, online learning platforms, and all related copyrights. All registered under your name, Ms. Elvine. There is a certified copy of the will, as well as notarized documents and the original IP registration. Delora leaned forward, voice sharp. There must be some mistake. My mother wouldn't, she never discussed. Martin didn't flinch. All documentation is in order. Marion Elvine personally signed, witnessed, and video recorded this transfer. 5 years ago. He looked at me. She left very clear instructions. Thessaly let out a brittle laugh. Well, I mean, that stuff's old news, right? Not even useful anymore. I doubt there's value in old lesson plans. My fingers tightened around the pen. Funny, I said, my voice steady, because I remember building every slide of that curriculum. I remember late nights helping her digitize, while the rest of you were busy with parties and brand deals. Delora's eyes narrowed. Keziah, this isn't the time.
No, Mom.
It's exactly the time, I replied, meeting her glare. You always said the house was the heart of the family, but Grandma knew the real legacy was what she built, what we built together. Thessaly snorted. You want to compare some boring files to a house? I'm sure the world will care. Martin interjected, the value of the intellectual property, especially with current online learning trends, is substantial. Ms. Elvine, you have full legal authority over all related materials. The room fell silent. I looked at the folder, my name, typed in Marion's precise script. She gave you the house, but she gave me the future. I stood up, tucking the folder under my arm. Thank you, Mr. Keene. Delora called after me. Don't make this difficult, Keziah. I didn't look back. Thessaly shot me a smirk. Don't worry, I won't let all that old stuff go to waste, she whispered, just loud enough. I paused in the hallway, feeling the weight of every moment I'd ever been invisible in this family, then turned the pen in my hand and walked out. The elevator ride down was silent. My phone buzzed. A push notification lit up the cracked screen. Success Academy, Thessaly Elvine launching soon. I blinked. My curriculum, my frameworks, the same color palette, the same opening lines. It wasn't even subtle. Outside, the wind bit at my cheeks. I looked at the folder. Empire, Grandma had called it. It didn't feel like an empire yet, more like a challenge. But for the first time, I felt something uncurl in my chest. Maybe I wasn't just an afterthought. Maybe I was the start of something no one saw coming. I walked away from the glass tower with my head held high, the echo of Martin's voice and Thessaly's laughter trailing behind me. In my pocket, my grandmother's pen felt heavy, like a key. They took the house. I took the future. It took less than 12 hours for the erasure to begin. I saw it first in a photo Thessaly posted that evening, a celebration dinner at Mom's favorite restaurant, all soft candlelight and practiced smiles. My seat at the table was empty, replaced by a bouquet. My name didn't appear in a single caption. By morning, it was as if I'd never been there. No text. No missed call. Nothing from Delora or Orville. Just a familiar cold that crept up the back of my neck, one I'd felt my entire life. But invisibility makes you observant. I noticed things no one else did. Thessaly's hurried glances at her phone, Delora's brittle laughter. The way Orville opened his mouth like he wanted to speak but never did. In the motel's flickering half-light, I laid out the inheritance, folders of lesson plans, printouts, handwritten notes, a tangle of flash drives. The bed sagged under the weight of things only I seemed to value. I booted up my ancient laptop, battered and held together with tape. A faded sticker across the cover, Teach Loud, was the last remnant of a girl who once believed her voice mattered. The Wi-Fi barely held, but I wasn't here for comfort. I was here to get to work. My first step was to hunt for proof. I logged into the email account I'd shared with my grandmother for curriculum drafts. The inbox was a graveyard. Read receipts, flagged attachments, subject lines like, "For your eyes only." I found what I needed. A PDF scan of the original will, sent months before her health declined. Her note to me still shimmered at the bottom. In case they forget you, let this remind them you built it all. I printed the page and taped it to the peeling wall above the desk. Curiosity burned brighter than humiliation. I navigated to Thessaly's newly launched Success Academy. The home page greeted me with my own words, verbatim from a unit I'd written the year I lived with Grandma. You don't just prepare students for tests, you build futures. She hadn't even changed the font. Diagrams, tables, the rubric for self-driven study. All mine. Even the typo in the sidebar. I took screenshots of every page, my hands shaking for more than just Motel Chill. It didn't stop there. Buried in the website staff page was a new core value. Keziah's Rule, rebranded as Thessaly's Framework Rule. A sick laugh bubbled in my throat. She was so desperate for credibility, she'd copied even the parts that belonged only to me. I refused to rage online. Instead, I opened an encrypted email and composed a single message to a well-known education blogger, someone who made a career exposing fraud in the industry. I attached side-by-side files, a zipped folder of timestamps, and a note. Compare for yourself. No name, no backstory. Just evidence. Hours blurred as I cataloged every asset. Old flashcards, notebooks, emails with copyright marks. Each item I labeled, archived, and encrypted in 3 places. Every move they made to erase me, I countered with a digital footprint. Just after midnight, a knock startled me. I froze, thinking maybe someone from the front desk had come to complain about the light. But when I opened the door, I found Milas, my oldest friend, a face I hadn't seen in years, shadowed and serious. I heard what happened, she said, holding out a thin envelope wrapped in an old dish towel. Your mother's been hiding this in her desk. I thought you should have it. I took it, my heart pounding. It was a letter addressed in my handwriting, last year's birthday card to Delora. Still sealed. Still unread. A note inside. If there's a space in your heart for me, let's start again. Love, Keziah. Have you ever realized the people you love most could ignore your truest words, or even hide them away? If you've ever felt erased by the very people you reached out to, share a comment with the number 7 below. Let's see what I decided to do next. Milas lingered, biting her lip. They don't deserve you, she said. But you deserve to be heard. You always did. We hugged. For the first time, I felt something like hope flicker. After she left, I sat cross-legged on the motel bed, spreading out my arsenal of proof like a general surveying a map. I scanned the envelope, the letter, every document, adding each to my legacy archive. Then methodically, I drafted an anonymous blog post. Framework Theft Case Study, When Family Becomes the Fraud. Screenshots. Timestamps. Quotes. No names, just receipts. As the sun broke through the dirty blinds, I hit publish and shut the laptop with trembling hands. The world outside kept spinning. Buses rumbled, dogs barked, someone shouted about coffee down the hall. I waited. An hour later, the first email arrived from a Dallas SAT prep organization. We've reviewed your profile. Your materials are exceptional. Would you consider virtual consulting? I stared at the screen. My hands finally steadied. For years, I'd begged for acknowledgement from the people who claimed to love me. But all it took was a stranger reading the truth. Meanwhile, Thessaly live-streamed from her brand-new studio, the set glowing in professional white light. She crowed about decades of educational excellence, smiling for thousands of fans. But in the chat, one comment popped up. Why does this sound so familiar? It disappeared in seconds. I watched the stream for a moment longer, then closed the window. I was done being erased. If they thought erasing me meant ending me, they forgot. I'm the one who writes the curriculum. The world likes a spectacle, but it rarely sees what happens in the library after hours. That's where I went next, armed with a battered Chromebook the librarian let me borrow for 2-hour slots, a flash drive full of history, and a single purpose: stop being erased and start drawing lines. If Thessaly wanted a war of images and hype, I would answer with what she couldn't fake: receipts. I set up at a corner table beneath flickering fluorescent light. The library was quiet, only the hushed rustle of pages and the click of keys. I opened my legacy folder, lining up every file, screenshot, and timestamp. Every syllabus draft I'd written, every lesson plan I'd built, every email between me and Grandma. Each file carried my fingerprints, dates, edits, watermarks, accidental typos that only I knew to look for. Margot, the lawyer from Austin, answered my call on the first ring. "You don't need a lawsuit to start," she said, voice brisk, Texan vowels sharp through the tinny speaker. "What you need is documentation, public, undeniable, and in your name. Let the world see the truth." My hands shook, not with fear, but with purpose. I created a private, time-stamped cloud drive. Then, wearing my old Teach Loud sticker like a badge, I filmed a single 3-minute video. Split screen. On the left, Thessaly's new Success Academy homepage. On the right, my original Google Doc, dated 2 years before she ever launched. I scrolled through identical intros, lesson breakdowns, and my own hand-drawn diagrams, line for line, slide for slide. I didn't add commentary, just a caption: "Receipts always win." I uploaded the clip to an anonymous channel, then attached the raw files, the notarized IP registration from Grandma, and a screenshot of her handwritten note: "Keziah deserves to be heard." I blasted the package to a short list of education bloggers, digital rights advocates, and 2 college journalism forums. All receipts, all public, all traceable. Meanwhile, halfway across the country, Thessaly was being interviewed by a glossy education magazine. I watched her live stream from the library computer, her studio pristine, voice velvet as she declared, "Success Academy was born from my years of research and dedication to students nationwide." The chat exploded with hearts and fire emojis, until the first link appeared. "Compare this. Receipts always win info." Interesting read. At first, Thessaly kept her composure, brushing off the question. There's a lot of overlap in education. We're all inspired by similar frameworks. But then a blogger posted a side-by-side breakdown. Not just similar, identical. The Twitter thread caught fire. Hashtags trended. Hashtag framework theft. Hashtag teach loud truth. Hashtag who built the academy. My phone buzzed with notifications, each one a little lightning strike. For the first time, I felt the ground shift under her, not me. Margot called. "It's working. You're not alone out there, kid. But buckle up. She'll come swinging." By late afternoon, a cease and desist email landed in my inbox. Legal letterhead, all caps threats, a demand to take everything down immediately or face swift and severe legal action. I smiled. I had expected this. I replied simply, attaching a scan of Grandma's signed IP transfer, timestamps, and the video of her reading the clause aloud. All original documents and materials are verifiable, time-stamped, and legally protected. Any further false claims will be addressed publicly and legally. At home, Thessaly's Instagram was melting down. Followers began to ask why her site's unique course sounded exactly like a 3-year-old SAT forum post, why her signature diagrams matched a public library upload from 2017, my name still visible in the metadata. A former student of mine messaged, "Miss K, I think my old SAT handout is on her site. Didn't you write that?" I replied, "Yes, and now everyone knows." The more Thessaly insisted, the deeper she sank. In a desperate move, she tweeted, "Some people can't stand to see others succeed. Sad, but I'm focused on the positive." The replies were brutal. "It's not jealousy if you own the copyright, sis." Funny how similar means identical when the receipts drop. The education blogger published a headline the next morning. The dark truth behind Success Academy. Exclusive receipts reveal source of viral curriculum. Attached were screenshots, side-by-side comparisons, and the notarized IP. Sponsors pulled out. A speaking engagement Thessaly had booked was quietly canceled. For a moment, I just sat there in the library, listening to the air hum with old vents and new justice. I remembered Grandma's voice. You don't have to yell, Keziah. Just document. The truth will find its own voice. I walked home past the mural of painted hands that wraps the city library's wall. In the dusk, I finally felt visible, not just online, but to myself. I thought about Thessaly, about all the years she spent louder and shinier and more successful than I was. Now the world was looking, and they were seeing me, but I wasn't naive. The legal threats would escalate. The smears would come. Let them. Receipts always win. There's a special kind of silence that follows public scandal. It's brittle, like thin ice, one wrong move, and the whole world hears the crack. That silence pressed on me the morning I sat with Margot, sunlight refracted through her glass office high above downtown Austin. Margot's space was all clean edges, glass-topped desk, patent leather chairs, a shelf of law books untouched but for the occasional annotated sticky note. The air conditioning hummed, sharp against the Texas heat. She reviewed the latest email, arching one brow. They don't want peace, Keziah. They want silence. An NDA is just a cleaner knife. Her tone was flat, but her foot tapped, betraying tension. She'd seen cases like this before, but this was personal. I looked down at my hands, the old silver ring on my finger cool and grounding. I remembered Grandma's voice. Use this when you need to say no without raising your voice. Outside the window, the city glinted, cars crawling by, people hurrying under the July sun. Inside, my world shrank to contracts and consequences. We met Thessaly and Delora at their attorney's suite. The lobby gleamed, marble floors reflecting the sharp click of my boots. A paralegal ushered me past a wall of art that was probably expensive, but felt soulless. Inside, Thessaly wore a spotless white blouse, hair in an immaculate bun, but her eyes were red at the corners. Delora's lips were set in a controlled smile, one she used for photographers at charity galas. A man in a tailored suit, Thessaly's lawyer, stood, shook my hand without warmth, then gestured for me to sit. As we took our seats, Delora broke the silence, her voice gentle, almost rehearsed. We're glad you agreed to meet. We know things got out of hand. She pushed a thick folder toward me. The contract was pristine, heavy. On the surface, settlement sum, name restoration, the promise of privacy and dignity for all parties. But the real poison was buried deep, paragraphs about silence, non-disparagement, retroactive non-disclosure. If I signed, my story, my voice, my rights would disappear forever. I opened the folder, flipping through each page with deliberate care. Thessaly tried to meet my eyes. I didn't give her that. She leaned forward, hands clasped. You can walk away with more than you've ever had. Let's just move on. Her tone trembled between plea and threat. Delora's gaze flicked to the lawyer, then back to me. You care about legacy.
You want respect.
This is how you start again. She smiled, but her nails dug into her palm. I could see the cracks, the desperation. The lawyer cleared his throat, tapping his pen. You understand, Ms. Elvine. This is a generous offer. If these matters go public any further, the consequences may be unpredictable. I felt the coolness of the USB drive in my pocket, a digital arsenal, notarized will, IP registrations, timeline of every plagiarized lesson. I placed my own file, on the glass table. The lawyer's eyes narrowed as he saw the seal. Federal registration, I said. Every framework, every lesson, dated, signed, and stored in 3 places. Thessaly's composure wavered. You think the internet cares who filed first? They care who's louder, who looks better. For the first time, I smiled, not bitter, not small. Then maybe they should hear the right story. The real story. And maybe it's time you learned that being louder isn't the same as being right. The air shifted. Margot, seated behind me, was silent but alert, her phone open, already preparing a public legal notice if the meeting went sideways. Delora tried to soften her tone. You don't need to destroy everything. Think of the family, the future. Family is supposed to survive truth, I said, not bury it. The lawyer grew impatient, tapping the contract. Let's be reasonable. If you sign, this goes away. You never liked being in the spotlight. I slid the NDA back across the table. I used to fix everything for you. I'm done cleaning up your mess. There was a moment, one of those split seconds that stretch, where all their control, all the perfectly planned performances fell away. Delora's eyes went glassy with fury. Thessaly looked so much younger, suddenly. I stood, steady and tall, leaving behind the NDA, the pen untouched. You wanted me invisible, but now you'll see me everywhere. I left the room. The click of my boots echoed. The marble lobby felt colder, but the sun outside burned hot and alive. Back in my apartment, I brewed tea, chamomile for nerves, and opened my laptop. The notification lights were endless. Shares, comments, duets, reaction videos. My short clip, Grandma's voice reading the will, my name declared as heir, had gone viral. The hashtag the voice they buried was trending. Teachers, students, even other content creators were telling their own stories of being erased, plagiarized, or silenced. On Thessaly's socials, the silence grew louder. Sponsors quietly disappeared, event bookings postponed. The influencer crowd faded away, leaving Thessaly's posts unliked, her stories unshared. The Success Academy team posted a vague apology, then shut comments off entirely. Late that night, as city lights blinked through the blinds, a text pinged. Don't do this. Family can recover. We can make this right.
Delora.
Before I could reply, a hard knock rattled the door. I opened it to find Thessaly, her hair undone, makeup streaked, breath shallow. We need to talk. You're ruining everything. I stayed in the doorway, blocking her path.
No, Thessaly.
I'm rebuilding what you destroyed. Her voice shook. Please. You've made your point. I'm losing everything. Deals, followers, friends. You're my sister. She tried to step closer. I didn't move. When did I matter to you? Before or after you used my work to build your empire? She glared, voice sharp with old venom. You never understood what it took to be me. I stared right back. You never even tried to see me. She left in a rush, the echo of her footsteps trailing off. I locked the door, leaned against the cool wood, and let the tension fall away. The ring on my finger, a small comfort, a shield. My phone buzzed with hundreds of new messages. I set it aside, letting the city's hush fill the room. At my desk, I noticed the light from the street made the old silver pen glimmer atop my files. I picked it up, remembering Grandma's words. I didn't have to raise my voice. I just had to hold the line. There's a knock at my door that isn't just a knock. It's the thud of years, every time they handed me a mess and expected me to sweep it under the rug. The first time, I was 6, cleaning up Thessaly's spilled paint before Mom saw. The last time before today was the night I rewrote Thessaly's graduation essay so she wouldn't flunk out of college. I'd been their fixer, their eraser, their silent solution. Now, the only thing silent is my apartment as I open the door, a studio on the 4th floor, sunlight spilling gold across pale wood and stacks of legal papers, the faint scent of peppermint tea and paper dust in the air. The desk in the corner is my command post. Copyright certificates, the first draft of the Real Academy homepage, and a single framed letter from a former student. On the windowsill, my grandmother's old ring and a battered mug sit side by side. Thessaly stands in the hallway, eyes ringed with exhaustion, makeup patchy. Behind her, Delora wears a mask of regret, and Orville's hands are shoved deep in his pockets, gaze fixed on the hallway carpet. For a split second, Thessaly's confidence slips. She glances at the mock-up website left on my desk, a glimpse of what she can't take from me. "We need to talk, Keziah," Thessaly says. Her voice is soft, desperate, with none of the manufactured confidence she used for cameras. "This isn't how it's supposed to end." I don't move aside. "You mean it's not how you wanted it to end?" The golden afternoon light pours around us, making the tension visible. Delora steps forward, voice syrupy with forced tenderness. "We made mistakes. We all did. But family means forgiveness. We can put this behind us, darling." My hand finds the edge of a letter from a student. "You made me believe I could win." The words give me grounding. Family didn't mean anything when you locked my work in a drawer. When you left my letter unopened. When you let Thessaly take everything I built and call it hers. Orville finally speaks, brittle and small. "People are talking. The news, your students, her sponsors, everyone's watching. This is destroying us." The tension thickens. Thessaly's eyes flash with panic. "You're doing this out of spite. You could have helped, like you always did. Why are you turning on us now?" My gaze flicks to the old mug, the light glinting off the gold band of my grandmother's ring beside it. "You didn't want my help. You wanted my silence. You wanted my work, my name, my everything, so long as you could scrub me out of the picture." Delora's hands tremble as she tries again. "You know what the world does to families like ours when things get ugly. Don't do this. Don't humiliate us in public." I shake my head. "You're embarrassed now that the world sees what I've always seen. But I'm not your fixer anymore. I'm not your scapegoat. I'm the foundation you tried to bury, and I'm done carrying your weight." Have you ever reached a point where you had to stop fixing everyone else's mess, just to finally save yourself? If you've ever walked away from being the family's problem solver, comment the number 9 below. Now let's see how my final stand changes everything. A shaft of sunlight falls over the framed letter as I close the door halfway, then pause. Thessaly's voice is nearly a whisper. "Without you, there's nothing left." I meet her eyes, and for a moment, I see the girl she once was, the sister who needed me, before everything soured. "I'm not your fixer anymore, Thessaly. You'll have to live with what you broke." The door clicks shut, not with anger, but with relief. The sound echoes in the small space. I move to my desk, where a gentle glow spreads across stacks of paperwork, official copyright notice, IP valuation report, a new bank account in my name, and a mock-up for the Real Academy, my new project. I turn the ring on my finger, my grandmother's ring, worn smooth by years of worry. The old mug beside me still steams with peppermint tea, grounding me. I draft a public post. "I'm Keziah Elvine, and this is my work, my voice, my legacy. You don't owe silence to people who only love your absence." With a single click, it's live. Instantly, messages flood in: students, teachers, journalists. Sponsors of Success Academy. Issue statements cutting ties. Thessaly's name trends for all the wrong reasons. As evening falls, sunlight angles through the blinds, painting gold bars across my desk and the wall where my grandmother's letter hangs. Margot calls. They've filed an injunction, trying to take down your site and freeze your assets. And there's a smear campaign brewing on Reddit. Jealous sister drama. Standard move. I thank her and hang up, hand steady. My laptop screen shows 2 tabs, the beginnings of The Real Academy, and an email from a student. You made me believe I could win. For a moment, I allow myself a real smile. I close my laptop, sip tea, and let the hush of twilight settle in. The city outside is loud with sirens and distant traffic, but my apartment is peaceful, grounded by the scent of old paper, gold sunlight, and the knowledge that I have finally locked the door for good. They tried to bury my name. I registered it instead. When the official letter from the Patent and Trademark Office arrived, a thick envelope, my name stamped next to every program, lesson plan, and curriculum I'd ever built. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I simply stood at the window of my new office, sunlight warming my hands, feeling a peace so solid it almost hurt. For years, I'd lived with my legacy trapped in other people's shadows. Now, everything with my signature on it was truly mine. The space I claimed was nothing flashy, just a bright room above a bookstore, with a whiteboard half covered in lesson plans and my students' thank you notes tacked beside it. I'd framed my grandmother's signature from the will and Margot's first congratulatory email. On the corner shelf, a battered mug and my grandmother's old silver pen caught the morning light. I was alone but not lonely because, for the first time, my story belonged to me. I sat at my desk, reading a letter from a university in Chicago. We'd like to license your curriculum for our new outreach program. Pride filled my chest, a feeling heavier and brighter than anything I'd known. On my screen, the Real Academy homepage gleamed, my face at the center, Grandma's handwriting running beneath. You will build what no one sees today. While I was building, Thessaly's empire finally collapsed. Overnight, the Success Academy website vanished, replaced by a single page. This service is no longer available. Social media turned cold. Her posts went unanswered. Sponsors and friends ghosted her. There were no apologies, no press releases. Delora quietly listed the house, packing up her life in silence, her name a whisper on the lips of realtors and neighbors. There was no farewell party, just the image of a moving truck and a curtain falling in the window. A news article made the rounds, the innovators who changed education this year. My name topped the list. They wrote about the battle, the copyright war, the way a stolen voice could rise up and take back everything. Reading the comments, I saw stories just like mine, people who had been erased, who finally saw someone draw the line and refused to disappear. I poured tea in my new office, steam curling over a box labeled Scholarship Fund, Keziah Elvine Foundation. The letters inside, thank yous from students, reminded me why I fought so hard. One envelope, from a girl in Texas, read, "You believed in me before anyone else did. Now I believe in myself." I placed her letter beside Grandma's and let myself breathe, not with longing or bitterness, but with genuine relief. I didn't need an apology anymore. As the sunlight stretched across my desk, it struck my grandmother's old silver pen, now resting atop a contract signed by 3 new schools. I picked up a marker and wrote across the whiteboard, "You will build what no one sees today, my morning ritual." On the wall beside it, I hung a new photo, me and 3 students standing outside the public library, all grinning beneath the broad branches of an old oak tree. In the drawer, I kept the old, cropped family picture, one I'd outgrown. My inbox pinged, a last message from Thessaly. "I still don't understand why you couldn't just help." I hovered over reply, then simply hit delete. Some stories didn't deserve a response. I set my mug beside the scholarship box, opened the window, and let the city's hum fill the space. This was freedom, not the loud, vindictive kind, but the kind that felt like sun on skin and quiet laughter when you realize you've survived. This empire wasn't built in a day, but it was always mine. After everything, I am finally at peace, free, whole, and unashamed of my own name. I no longer need anyone's approval or permission to claim the legacy I built. Dignity and justice are mine, and they cannot be taken back. What I learned is simple. When you stand up for yourself and refuse to be erased, the world eventually has to see you. Kindness matters, but only when it's given to those who value it. In the end, those who betray and use others always lose far more than they ever steal. Have you ever found the strength to walk away from people who tried to write you out of your own story? Or learned the hard way that silence only serves those who want to keep you small? Share your story or your thoughts below. What helped you reclaim your power? Or what would you tell someone who's still searching for their voice? And if you want more stories about justice, second chances, and truth, don't forget to subscribe for the next episode.